Up next in the broadcast, a U.S. think tank says it has further satellite evidence that North Korea resumed operations at its Yongbyon nuclear facility. The U.S. government shutdown continues into its third day as high-level talks at the White House failed to produce a compromise. Global cinephiles converge in Korea's southern port city to open the 18th Busan International Film Festival. Primetime News begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. It's Thursday, October 3rd here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I'm Yoo Ji-hae.
And I'm Sean Lim. Happy National Foundation Day and thank you for joining us. We begin with Korea's celebration of its 4,345th National Foundation Day, or Gaecheonjeol.
The day has been designated as a national holiday since 1909, and Koreans on this day celebrate the creation of the state of ancient Korea by the legendary King Dangun. At a national ceremony earlier this Thursday morning, Prime Minister Chung Hong-won said the national unity built on dialogue and compromise is what's most important for Korea at the present time. His remarks come amid a string of ongoing political and social divisions within the country. The Prime Minister added the nation should overcome challenges such as global economic uncertainties and social divisions. And with inter-Korean tensions on the rise again after a sudden breakdown in dialogue between the two Koreas, more daunting discoveries have been made about North Korea's nuclear ambitions.
More satellite imagery suggests that the rogue state has resumed operations at a nuclear reactor in the western part of the country and is producing energy. Our national defense correspondent Han Da-eun has more.
This is a satellite image of a nuclear facility in Yongbyon, North Korea, taken last month by a French commercial satellite. It shows hot wastewater being discharged from buried drain pipes of a 5-megawatt nuclear reactor. More evidence that the reclusive state has restarted operations at its main nuclear complex. Wastewater is released when a turbine generator inside a nuclear reactor creates electricity. Based on satellite imagery, 38 North, a website run by the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University, says North Korea appears to have completed construction of cooling facilities for the 5-megawatt reactor in August and resumed operations last month. Pyongyang had demolished the reactor's cooling tower after six-party nuclear negotiations in 2008. As a sign of its willingness to stick to the agreements made during the multilateral dialogue. But earlier this year, as inter-Korean tensions were rising, the communist state declared it was resuming operations at all nuclear facilities in Yongbyon and reportedly started construction immediately to rebuild the cooling tower. According to weapons experts, North Korea can produce up to 6 kilograms of plutonium from the reactor per year, which is enough to make one nuclear bomb. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
Tomorrow, Friday, October 4th, marks the 6th anniversary of a declaration signed by the two Koreas that pledged to boost inter-Korean cooperation and secure peace on the peninsula.
A lot has changed and happened since then, and in line with the occasion, our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee looks back at the last 6 years of inter-Korean relations and all its ups and downs.
6 years after the two Koreas adopted the October 4th Declaration, not much progress has been made in inter-Korean relations. Signed by President Roh Moo-hyun and North Korean leader Kim Jong-il, the declaration lists 45 tasks for the two Koreas, such as establishing a special peace and cooperation zone in the West Sea and shifting the current Korean War armistice to a peace treaty. But with most of the projects deemed unrealistic and too costly, much of the agreement has virtually been scrapped. That's put a damper on the outlook for inter-Korean ties. And following weeks of thawing relations, the two sides are back at odds after North Korea suddenly called off a round of planned reunions for families separated during the Korean War. In its state-run daily 노동신문, North Korea on Wednesday slammed a massive military parade staged by South Korea this week to mark the 65th Armed Forces Day, calling it a confrontational act that could trigger a war. In a separate publication, the North's committee overseeing inter-Korean relations called President Park Geun-hye's Armed Forces Day speech a serious provocation that defies efforts for dialogue and peace on the Korean peninsula. President Park had vowed to build a strong deterrence against Pyongyang's nuclear ambitions. Meanwhile, Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo are scheduled to hold an annual joint naval drill next week, which could further upset Pyongyang. But amid the escalating tensions, a U.S. expert who recently held informal talks with North Korean officials in London over the resumption of stalled six-nation denuclearization talks said North Korea wants to return to the negotiating table, but added that the challenge is convincing Pyongyang to let go of its nuclear weapons and related technology. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
And as our Hwang Sang-hee just mentioned, in a rare show of trilateral military cooperation, South Korea, the United States, and Japan will hold naval drills in waters off Korea's southern coast next week to bolster interoperability between the nations.
Military officials in Seoul say the drills, which will run from next Tuesday to Thursday, will involve the American aircraft carrier, the USS George Washington, and Aegis destroyers from Korea and Japan. Fighter jets, anti-submarine helicopters, and early warning aircraft will also take part. North Korea watchers have expressed concern that the three-way drills could agitate Pyongyang at a time when inter-Korean tensions have been steadily rising.
Before your day ends and another begins, get the least news live from Seoul.
Residents whose features restrictions is on the rise.
Closing ceremony.
Expert analysis from Asia's heartbeat.
The legislature, circumstances.
With a viewpoint only Korea's global network can provide.
The United States, the latest report. Less than
Unrivaled access from a team always on standby.
Meaning came on the news, trying to cover up the South's true intentions in maintaining confrontation.
The U.S. government shutdown heads into day 3 following unproductive talks at the White House between congressional leaders and President Barack Obama. With no end to the standoff in sight, federal workers furious at the lack of progress have taken to the streets in protest. Our Connie Lee has more.
The U.S. government shutdown now heads into day 3 after congressional leaders emerged from the White House on Wednesday with no deal following talks with President Barack Obama. After the meeting, President Obama again reiterated that his health care reforms that triggered the deadlock are not up for negotiation. In an interview with CNBC, the president admitted that the standoff was exhausting.
During the course of my presidency, I have bent over backwards to work with the Republican Party. Am I exasperated? Absolutely, I'm exasperated, because this is entirely unnecessary.
The Republicans want to add government measures to the budget that would delay or undercut Obama's health care law, something the Democrats refuse to accept. And another clock is ticking, as a deadline to raise the nation's debt ceiling, October 17th, is fast approaching. For the 800,000 furloughed federal employees, the uncertainty over when they'll be able to return to work has left many angry, with some taking their frustrations to the streets.
2 kids in college, out-of-state tuition, it's going to be a significant financial hardship. I'm talking about possibly getting emergency loans from the credit union.
Another group of people upset by the shutdown are tourists, especially those in Washington, D.C., who are looking forward to checking out the national parks and museums there.
So much we're going to go see today, and now we get a big bowl of nothing.
Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Back here in the nation, the partial shutdown of the U.S. government has had little effect on the Korean economy. Nevertheless, as our Kim Yong-gil reports, government officials are keeping close tabs and have vowed to take necessary actions.
As U.S. lawmakers continue to butt heads over the issues that led the government to shut down this week, Korean officials continue to brace themselves for a possible negative impact on the Korean economy. The nation's finance ministry has been keeping close tabs on global developments as the impasse in Washington could intensify market volatility. But so far, the effects on the domestic economy has been limited. Korean stocks ended nearly flat on Wednesday as investors shrugged off concerns of the U.S. shutdown. But analysts caution that the uncertainties in the U.S. may weigh down the inflow of foreign currency into local markets if the impasse continues for a prolonged period of time, which could impact private sector spending and then eventually take a bite out of Korea's export-driven economy. Although Seoul does not expect the U.S. government shutdown to last for long, the finance ministry says it is ready to spring into action with measures in case the Korean economy is affected. Kim Young-geol, Arirang News.
And moving now to nuclear fallout in Japan, another radioactive water spill was found at a crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, while radioactive cesium has been detected in dozens of children living near Tokyo. Here's Yoo Ji-hae with more on worrying discoveries.
This is a school 50 kilometers northeast of Tokyo in a city called Moriya. A local citizens group recently carried out examinations on 85 children under the age of 18 and found out that 58 of them, or 70%, had radioactive cesium in their urine samples. The kind of cesium detected is a fission product formed in nuclear power plants. Members of the group say there's a high chance the cesium entered the children's bodies after eating food contaminated with radioactive material. While the nuclear concerns spread throughout Japan, the Tokyo Electric Power Company is trying to contain radioactive leaks at the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant. TEPCO said Thursday that another tank at the plant is leaking radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. This is a different tank from the one that was found to have been leaking 300 tons of contaminated water back in August. TEPCO said that workers detected water dripping from the top of an overflowing tank and estimated that about 430 liters had leaked into the sea. Yoo Ji-hae, Arirang News.
But Chuseok, one of Korea's biggest traditional holidays, has passed, and it's now China's turn to enjoy an extended break, a 7-day-long holiday. And this one celebrates the founding of the People's Republic of China, and tens of thousands of Chinese tourists are all booked up to make a short hop to Korea's southern Jeju Island over the holiday break. Yoo Ji-hae has the details.
This is a 5-star hotel in downtown Jeju. It's a popular lodging among Chinese tourists, but it's been even busier this week since China's 7-day-long national holiday kicked off.
The ratio of Chinese guests and Korean guests at our hotel is usually about 50-50. This week, 80% of our guests are Chinese tourists.
The story is similar for other hotels on Korea's southern resort island, with the booking rate during the holiday season reaching over 80%. The booking rate of nearly 120 international flights to Jeju Island also stands at 80% over the period, while an international cruise ship will enter the port of Jeju 5 times. Jeju's Tourism Association says that 70,000 Chinese tourists are expected to visit the island from this week until next Monday, when the holiday ends, up 46% from the same period a year ago. While the popularity of Jeju Island among Chinese tourists is rooted in the scenic beauty of the World Heritage Site, the improved accessibility to the island also factors in.
Jeju's provincial government and the Tourism Association have expanded the number of regular flights to Jeju to 50 per day, and the number of cruise ships has also increased threefold, making it easier for people to visit.
Duty-free shops in Korea are also expecting sales to rise during China's national holiday, while the overall tourism industry, that includes aviation and car rental services, are anticipating increased demand. 황지혜, Arirang News.
The 18th Busan International Film Festival kicked off earlier this evening with a grand opening ceremony full of stars from around the world.
And for more on how the Asia's largest film celebration is panning out and what film lovers can look forward to at the 10-day event, we connect live to our cultural correspondent Park Ji-won, who's down in the southern port city of Busan covering the festival. Now, Ji-won, what's the atmosphere there like right now?
I guess, Ji-hae and Sean, I am in front of the Busan Cinema Center, and this is the main venue of the Busan International Film Festival. And at this hour, over 10 p.m. Korea time, the place is packed with people. They are movie fans or Busan residents who'd like to enjoy the festive move until the end.
All right, the moviegoers have apparently just ended their screening of the opening movie, which may have been an unconventional choice by the festival organizers. Can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so the opening ceremony started about 7 p.m. Korea time, and right before the opening ceremony, there was this grand red carpet event where dozens of movie stars and Korean filmmakers and some international film stars participated in the event, and thousands of citizens cheered and greeted them with their cheers. And about an hour-long ceremony, they watched the opening film, which is a Bhutanese film, Avara, a Blessing. This film is directed by, actually he's a Buddhist monk himself. He made this film to tell us more about the beauty of Indian dance and the story of love and self-sacrifice. But this film is just one of 300 films that will be shown during the festival from 70 different countries. So during the 10-day event, the festival is offering a lot of independent, good Asian but non-Asian films altogether to visitors.
Right, and each year the festival adds a new wrinkle to the program. What's different about this year's event?
Well, since the beginning of this festival's beginning back in 1996, the Busan International Film Festival has been introducing good Asian films to the world. And this mission is still going on, of course, but one of the programmers I've talked to during the festival said that they would like to include more of a non-Asian films during its programs from now on. So I guess the Busan International Film Festival is truly expanding its horizons beyond the Asia's largest film festival as of now. And I guess all those film lovers and movie fans in the nation should visit Busan during this weekend or sometime next week before it ends next Saturday. Back to you.
Well, that certainly sounds like a plan. Thank you very much, Park Ji-won, reporting live from Busan International Film Festival. And meanwhile, another of Asia's largest event is taking place here in Korea, dedicated to books and print.
Paju Book City, home to some 300 local publishing houses, is playing host to the annual book-themed festival focusing on Asian literature and authors this year. Our Paul Yi tells us more.
The 2013 Paju Book Story Festival is in full swing here in Gyeonggi Province, just north of Seoul. The Book Theme Festival is celebrating its third anniversary at Paju Book City, where hundreds of Korea's leading publishing houses have come together to create a truly unique literary environment. Visitors are able to browse to their heart's content through a massive catalog of domestic books, ebooks, audiobooks, and much more. Lectures, concerts, and a symposium on literature are also being held, featuring 30 famous figures in the literary world from 16 countries. President Park Geun-hye came out to show her support for the book fair, where she engaged with publishers and encouraged officials to further promote the nation's content industry. Special exhibits are showcasing historical geographical maps and astronomy charts from around the world, which date back as far as the 15th century. Organizers this year are focusing on increasing readership with book clubs and mentoring programs to ensure a vibrant future for the industry.
Writers, readers, and people who make books. Together we are participating to celebrate this event. Programs like these, I believe, need to be further strengthened as we move forward.
The Paju Book Festival runs through October 6th, with high hopes of attracting local and international book lovers, as well as inspiring a new generation of writers. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Over in the U.S., the Major League playoffs are now in full swing.
And Stephen Che joins us from the Sports Center to give us a preview of the upcoming matchup. Stephen.
Hey guys, the Tampa Bay Rays on Wednesday evening local time beat the Cleveland Indians in their American League wildcard matchup, and now the division series are ready to begin. The schedule starts with action in the National League with the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the St. Louis Cardinals at Busch Stadium Thursday evening. And following that game, the LA Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves go head-to-head at Turner Field in their best-of-5 game series to determine who advances to the next round. Dodgers ace Clayton Kershaw takes the mound in Game 1, while the Korean monster Yoo Ji-hae is scheduled for a Game 3 start. And moving on, FC Seoul has booked the ticket to the AFC Champions League finals against Guangzhou Evergrande after defeating their semi-final opponents. Although they tied in their match with Iran's FC Esteghlal 2-2 in the second leg of the semis, FC Seoul advanced to the finals for the first time in 12 years on a 4-2 aggregate victory. Now they're set to face last year's China Super League champs, with the first leg to be played at Seoul's World Cup Stadium on the 26th. And rounding the bases, it's time for Thursday's top KBO matchup. The Nexen Heroes took on the SK Wyverns in Incheon. Nexen's new to second place, SK not making it easy. Now to the first, SK's Lee Jae-won scores the first run with this sac fly. It's 1-0 SK. Then Nexen, top of the third, MVP Park Byung-ho. He hits a 3-run shot to left. It's 3-1 Heroes. Now it's bottom fourth. SK scores 4, including this 2-run double by Park Jae-sang. SK leads 5-3. Next inning, Nexen answers back with 3 before SK's Park Jung-kwon solo homer starts the 3-1 rally. 7-6 Wyverns. SK adds a couple more, and they go on to win this one with a final score of 10-6. And looking at the scores from around the league, LG blanks Hanwha 1-0, Tusan over Kia 7-6, and Lotte defeats Samsung 8-7. That does it for me here in the Sports Center. This has been Stephen Che. Let's check back at midnight for the latest in the world of sports.
Time for a check on the weather. Let's go to Po-kyung, who is standing by.
The Po-kyung, it was a bright autumn Thursday here in Seoul. Perfect condition for the people who had a day off from the National Foundation Day. Does Friday hold more to say?
Well, Ji-hae, absolutely. More beautiful autumn weather is in the forecast for tomorrow. Now, taking a look at our satellite map, the country is under the influence of a high-pressure system from the West Sea. This is why we're seeing clear skies throughout the nation. Now, tomorrow, there looks to be a big gap in temperatures, about 15 degrees between the day and night. So be sure to keep yourself warm on your way to work. Otherwise, tomorrow is shaping up to be even sunnier than today. For those of of you worried about the approach of Tropical Storm Fito, the Korea Meteorological Administration says Fito's path has turned toward China, so the storm should miss us here on the peninsula. Now moving on to tomorrow's forecast, the morning temperature in Seoul should fall to 10 degrees before reaching 26 in the afternoon, and cities down south should hit the mid-20s. Now moving on to other regions, Daejeon and Jeju should both make it to 24 degrees. Meanwhile, Dokdo, Aomang, Kumgang should peak at 22 and 14 degrees respectively. Well, that's all for now. Enjoy the rest of National Foundation Day, and here is the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that's our broadcast on this Thursday night. I'm Yoo Ji-hae in Seoul.
And I'm Sean Lim. Thanks for joining us. Have a great evening. We'll see you soon.